The Annabelle doll is legendary. Because of the Conjuring series, it's probably the most well-known haunted doll, and maybe even the most well-known haunted object in existence. And most people don't know that it's a seemingly innocuous-looking Raggedy Ann doll instead of the spooky doll from the movies. The doll is supposed to be a conduit for malevolent forces. Haunted, possessed, whatever you want to call it. And the doll's story is linked with Ed and Lorraine Warren, self-proclaimed demonologists and paranormal investigators, which is something that I would like to be, who acquired the doll in the 1970s and enshrined it as a centerpiece of their occult museum in Monroe, Connecticut. This museum is now closed, but it used to house a collection of artifacts the Warrens claimed were associated with dark spiritual encounters, with Annabelle often cited as the center and most sinister among all of them. The legend of Annabelle has transcended niche paranormal circles and has been catapulted into the global consciousness by the Conjuring universe film franchise. These movie adaptations, while taking considerable artistic liberties, have cemented the doll's image as an icon of horror, priming a global audience for narratives of its supposed haunting. And good news, Annabelle the doll has supposedly escaped, and it's on the run. Let's get spooky! Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny here, and we are back with another disturbing story. Before we get to today's story, let's make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please make sure that you like and share this video. Share this video with anyone you know who has a doll collection, because why do they have a doll collection? They should know better than that. The Annabelle doll began as an ordinary gift. In 1970, a student nurse named Donna reportedly received a Raggedy Ann doll from her mother as a 28th birthday present. Happy birthday! Here's a haunted doll! At first, the doll just sat in her bedroom. However, spooky things started happening. Donna and her roommate Angie began noticing peculiar occurrences involving the doll. It would allegedly change positions on its own. Sometimes its legs would be crossed, other times it would be found splayed on its side, and occasionally it would appear in a different room from where it was last put. These occurrences escalated with the appearance of handwritten notes on parchment paper, a material the nurses claimed that they didn't have. And I mean, who has parchment paper? Right? With messages like, help me, help us, or help Lou, who was a friend of Donna and Angie. Then the activity took a menacing turn. Lou, who was reportedly skeptical of the doll, as anyone probably would be, claimed to have awoken from a nap, feeling as though he was being strangled, only to see the doll staring at him. He later discovered scratch marks that he could not explain on his chest. At one point, the doll even seemed to be leaking a blood-like substance. Donna and Angie were obviously disturbed by these events, so they sought the help of a psychic medium. And a seance was conducted, during which the medium stated that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins. Annabelle had supposedly lived on the property before the apartment complex was built and had died there. The spirit, communicating through the medium, expressed a desire to stay with the nurses and to be loved. Isn't that what we all want? Moved by compassion, Donna reportedly gave the spirit permission to inhabit the doll. Oops. The Annabelle situation eventually came to the attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, as we discussed earlier, were prominent paranormal investigators and founders of the New England Society of Psychic Research, or NESPR. You guys all know Ed and Lorraine Warren, or at least you should if you're watching these videos, right? They were reportedly told about the case by a priest, Father Cook, who is also in a different account referred to as Father Higgins, but, we'll ignore that part, whom Donna had consulted. The Warrens conducted an investigation, and they reached a different conclusion than the medium. They asserted the doll itself was not possessed, as spirits do not possess inanimate objects, but rather people. Instead, they claimed an inhuman demonic presence was manipulating the doll. I often feel like an inhuman demonic presence is inhabiting my Outlook inbox, but that's just me. The Warrens theorized that this entity was feigning to be the spirit of a young girl to deceive the nurses and gain their acceptance. Ooh, tricky. The ultimate goal, according to the Warrens, was not to remain with the doll, but to possess a human host. They believed that the phenomena were in an infestation stage, and that if it had continued for a few more weeks, the spirit would have completely possessed, if not harmed or killed, one or all of the occupants of the house. The Warrens took possession of the doll, believing they were intervening just in time. Before leaving the apartment, they had Father Cook perform an exorcism of the premises, though they maintained the entity was still attached to the doll. The journey with Annabelle was not without incident. They reported that their car began to swerve erratically on the ride home, prompting Ed Warren to douse the doll with holy water. Or maybe his cruise control wasn't working right. Now as soon as a doll started getting weird with me, that doll would be in the garbage. I would not have called the priest. I would not have called the medium. I would not have waited for Ed and Lorraine Warren to come out. That doll would have just ended up in the trash. After getting the doll, Annabelle was housed in the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. A special glass case was built for the doll, bearing a warning sign that said, "Positively do not open." Good advice. The museum itself became a site of dark tourism before closing in 2019 due to zoning issues. The artifacts, including Annabelle, remain on the property under the care of Nesper, now directed by the Warrens' son-in-law, Tony Spera. Spera has described Annabelle as the most frightening item in their collection. Kind of a unique thing to inherit. A unique family business. Spooky family businesses. I like it. The Warrens attributed further incidents to the doll even while it was in the case. One story involved a young man who allegedly visited the museum, mocked the doll, and banged on its case, challenging it to scratch him. The Warrens claimed he died in a motorcycle accident shortly after leaving the museum. Ooh. Another account of a priest who, after dismissing the doll's power, was reportedly involved in a near-fatal crash. These stories solidify Annabelle's reputation as dangerous and a powerful, malevolent, haunted object. Decades after being acquired by the Warrens and encased in glass, the Annabelle doll once again became the subject of public concern in May 2025. Hey, that was just like a couple days ago. This time, the fear was not confined to a small apartment, but amplified globally through the channels of social media, ignited by rumors that the doll has disappeared or escaped from her caretakers. Now, I know you guys have probably seen the memes, right? The rumors of Annabelle's disappearance began to circulate in mid-May 2025. The emergence coincided with the Devils on the Run tour, a traveling exposition organized by Nesper that showcased Annabelle and other artifacts from the Warren Occult Museum at various locations across the United States. The tour had already made stops, including a sold-out event at the Ghost City Tours office in New Orleans from May 13 and 14. A lot of spooky stuff in New Orleans. Speculation about Annabelle's whereabouts intensified after she was reportedly not visible to visitors at a tour stop in White Castle, Louisiana. Now, White Castle is a real city in Louisiana. It is not just a White Castle restaurant that happened to be in Louisiana. I researched that. The absence, whether planned or not, became the spark that lit a social media wildfire. The hashtag AnnabelleMissing became trending on social media platforms and quickly became a global concern. The public reaction to the rumors was swift and dramatic, as the internet always is, characterized by fear, probably fake fear, disbelief, and other sort of extra fascination. Social media platforms like X/Twitter and TikTok were full of posts expressing alarm. Users shared the news with frantic urgency, with some posts garnering millions of views. The nature of these reactions underscored a deep-seated cultural acceptance regarding Annabelle's purported malevolent capabilities. The social media reactions showed off the cultural acceptance of Annabelle's purported hauntedness. The readiness people were to believe was heavily influenced by the doll's cinematic portrayals in the Conjuring universe and the long-standing narratives promoted by the Warrens themselves, who had consistently warned of the dangers of the doll and the importance of its secure containment. The idea of such an entity being lost tapped into primal fears, or people were just having fun with it. The memes were fantastic, and they played up a supposed panic. What do you mean they lost Annabelle doll? One of the most haunted possessions? That Annabelle? The online discourse and the memes played up the idea of the unleashing of a dangerous supernatural entity upon an unsuspecting world. And the groundwork for this alarm had been laid over many years through movies, books, and the Warrens' own storytelling. The disappearance rumor fit all too perfectly. Faced with escalating online hysteria, official sources connected to the Annabelle doll moved to quell the rumors. Tony Spera issued clear denials. He stated, "The doll was never missing," and assured the public that Annabelle was never out of control. Spera emphasized the extreme precautions taken when handling and transporting the doll, including blessings from Catholic priests before, during, and after its movement. Reportedly, a Catholic priest named Father Bob traveled with the doll during the tour. I wonder how a priest gets assigned haunted doll duty. More debunking came from Dan Rivera, a lead investigator with Nesper. Nesper posted video evidence on social media showing Annabelle safely secured within her glass case at the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. The proof of, well, I guess it's not really proof of life. I guess it's proof of doll encapsulation was crucial in calming the panic. Some reports clarified that doll was simply returned to the museum between tour stops, or that its absence from a particular display was temporary and maybe even planned. One video caption accompanying footage of Annabelle back in her case read, "Annabelle is back home. For now." Ha ha ha. Actually, that laugh probably wasn't there. The official statements debunked the notion that Annabelle had escaped, but they definitely played up the doll's mystique. Phrases like extreme precautions, the priestly blessings, and the ominous "for now" stop the immediate panic of a loose demonic artifact while simultaneously maintaining the object's paranormal allure. The careful management of the narrative allowed Nesper to control the negative publicity of losing a dangerous item, yet still preserve the dangerous artifact story that is central to the public interest, and, unsurprisingly, the tour's appeal. Why Annabelle was removed from display mid-tour in White Castle, Louisiana is unclear. Was it a simple logistical decision, or was it a more calculated move to generate social media buzz? Let's find out. The rumors of Annabelle's disappearance quickly became intertwined with a series of unrelated yet alarming real-world events that occurred in Louisiana around the same time. These events fueled speculation that the escaped doll was wreaking havoc. Two incidents in the New Orleans area became focal points for the attributing chaos to Annabelle. The Orleans Justice Center inmate escape. On May 16th, 2025, 10 inmates escaped from the Orleans Justice Center, prompting a city-wide manhunt. This occurred just days after Annabelle's New Orleans tour appearance and as disappearance rumors were gaining traction. The Nottoway Plantation fire. On May 15th, 2025, a fire broke out at the historic Nottoway Plantation near White Castle, Louisiana. Nottoway Plantation is now referred to as Nottoway Resort. The cause of the fire was officially cited as unknown or attributed to the old flammable nature of the wooden structure dating back to the 1850s. This location was near where Annabelle was reportedly absent from the tour display. The timing of these events, close to where Annabelle supposedly disappeared, created a buzz that many found too compelling to dismiss as a coincidence. Horror fans, paranormal enthusiasts, and people in the media were quick to speculate a causal link between the supposedly missing Annabelle doll and these disturbances. The narrative of Annabelle as a paranormal and malevolent entity capable of influencing her surroundings and causing harm provided a perfect explanation for these unsettling occurrences. As we all know, once an object is believed to be evil, it can become a magnet for blame for any sort of misfortune, no matter the logical likelihood of that happening. For example, Matthew Bartles, who works for U.S. Ghost Adventures and is a dark tourism expert, remarked on the chaos that ensued as Annabelle visited New Orleans, stating that Annabelle's disappearance raises questions about her true capabilities. He further invoked the Warrens' warnings. The Warrens warned the general public to never let her leave her case, and now that she has, we may be dealing with greater paranormal powers than we are prepared for. Despite the widespread paranormal speculation, there are better rational explanations for the New Orleans incidents. The inmates of the Orleans Justice Center reportedly tunneled their way out through a hole behind a toilet. The Nottoway Plantation was a wooden structure and inherently susceptible to fire. Officials have dismissed any supernatural link to the plantation fire. The public's readiness to connect these events to Annabelle highlights common psychological tendencies such as apophenia, which is the perception of meaningful patterns in random data, and confirmation bias, which is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs. Since people were already predisposed to believe in the paranormal, and specifically in the paranormal haunting of Annabelle, these events served as proof of her power. There's also some other spooky stuff on the Annabelle tour. For example, during a stop in San Antonio, Texas, for the Psychic and Spirit Fest at Victoria's Black Swan Inn, which is also supposedly a haunted location, there were complaints about spooky stuff. Seems kind of vague. Seriously, who's complaining about spooky stuff? You went to the spooky thing to see spooky stuff, and now you're mad when you saw the spooky stuff? Come on. But this type of vagueness is common in anecdotal paranormal accounts. It's plausible that the expectation of paranormal activity fueled by Annabelle's presence, the Psychic Spirit Fest atmosphere, and the inn's haunted reputation made people more susceptible, more sensitive to see spooky or paranormal things. This is the power of suggestion. The Devils on the Run tour itself was designed to court an atmosphere where spooky and disturbing paranormal events were more likely to be perceived. Taking Annabelle to locations like haunted inns and historic jails blends entertainment with perceived spiritual risk. They were curating an environment where attendees are primed to expect and therefore perceive paranormal experiences. And this helps perpetuate the doll's legend and enhances the tour's mystique, and serves as marketing for the tour. Now, the Warrens and Annabelle have faced significant skepticism from researchers and critics. Science writer Sharon A. Hill has been a prominent critical voice, and she says that many of the myths and legends surrounding the Warrens appear to be seemingly of their own doing, making it difficult for the public to separate the reality of the Warrens from their dramatized Hollywood portrayals. Hill has stated that the real-life Annabelle is actually far less impressive than her cinematic counterpart. She talks about the lack of verifiable evidence for the Warrens' claims, saying, "We have nothing but Ed's word for this, and also for the history and origins of the objects in the museum." Dr. Joseph Laycock, who is an assistant professor of religious studies, also views the Warrens Occult Museum and Annabelle with similar skepticism. He calls it full of off-the-shelf Halloween junk, dolls, and toys, books you could buy at any bookstore. He calls the Annabelle legend an interesting case study in the relationship between pop culture and paranormal folklore, which it is. Laycock argues that the demonic doll trope is not a unique demonic event, but goes to earlier cultural products like legends involving Robert the Doll and a 1963 Twilight Zone episode titled Living Doll. Interestingly, that episode featured a malevolent doll and a mother character named Annabelle, predating the Warrens' Annabelle case by several years. Laycock has also said that the idea of a demonically possessed doll allows modern demonologists to find supernatural evil in the most banal and domestic of places. Online communities like Reddit have also echoed these critiques, and many users expressed the view that the Warrens' activities were hoaxes or a form of grifting designed to sell books, lectures, and movie rights. The 2025 disappearance has been widely suspected by Reddit and other online communities to be a publicity stunt to promote the tour or the new movie. And that's what this is. That's the May 2025 Annabelle disappearance was a calculated viral marketing stunt. And it's supported by a few factors. First of all, this occurrence just so happened to happen while there was a tour. Also, the Nesper response, while debunking the escape, used language that reinforced the doll's dangerous aura, keeping the narrative of this spooky doll alive. Annabelle's disappearance is a modern form of legend building. It used social media to create a temporary widespread crisis that actually enforced the doll's notoriety. And the whole story played out publicly, adding another chapter to Annabelle's story and demonstrating that she is perceived as still dangerous enough to cause panic and her caretakers are still vigilant enough to control her. This was the performance of the legend in real time, perfectly suited for the age of social media to go viral. Keep in mind, the success of the Annabelle story as a franchise blurs the line between true story and supernatural horror. The based on reality claim adds a layer of thrill, adds a layer of spookiness, regardless of how accurate that is. The story of Annabelle's disappearance or Annabelle's escape is a compelling story that allows us to look at the interplay of belief, folklore, social media, and commerce in our times. And really, it was a great viral marketing scheme. Make sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Go ahead and give this video a like. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. Follow me on TikTok. My username is AKBrews. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, leave a comment or send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super thanks button in the YouTube toolbar. You can give it a click and you can make a donation. I would appreciate it. Any money that gets donated to this channel will go back into making better videos for you guys. You also support me by continuing to watch, like, and share my videos. And I really do appreciate that you watch my videos. It means a lot to me. And of course, stay spooky.